very similarly. NIP and MIBR are no different, especially on their attacking ban. They usually get the Thatcher out of the way very, very quickly, but because they both mostly ban Thatcher, that'll leave MIBR, who's banning second, a little bit of free reign on the attacking ban, which is something they don't usually get. Take it back. That's an unusual one for NIP. That's a Maverick off the board, and unsurprising though, because both teams do like to play it on this map.
You know what's cheeky about that, Jess, is like you've said, both of these teams like to ban Thatcher. So now NIP is playing a game of chicken with MIBR, and MIBR do not swerve out of the way. Jess, this is an unusual situation. Both of these teams always ban Thatcher on Oregon, and now we have Thatcher in. Maverick and Nomad are out.
That is incredibly unusual. You and I were just walking on the fact that they would ban Thatcher. And so we were speculating, well, what is the other attacking ban going to be? We're getting rid of the Maverick and the Nomad. Okay, I'm looking over to Ninjas and Pyjamas. They play a heck of a lot of Nomad. You go over to MIBR. They love Nomad as well. They love Maverick. A lot of really popular operators for both of these teams are going well out the door now. And I think this will shock... I'm going to say it's going to shock MIBR a little bit more, because I'm going to say they probably thought the Thatcher would go off the board first, whereas NIP, they committed to that Maverick ban.
Yeah, and of course, maybe NIP were there thinking, hey, if we don't ban Thatcher, they'll surely will, Jess. We shouldn't sweat. And then out of that, you know, of course, banning Maverick, right? If you double down with the Thatcher and Maverick ban, it really makes your hard breach a lot more difficult, because getting rid of any bandit batteries, mute jammers, electric claws is so much more difficult. Now, there are a lot of opportunities for vertical play on this game for countering that, but in this case, we won't really need to see that, since Thatcher is in. Does restrict the composition somewhat on the attack, making that Thatcher almost an instant pick every single round. But you know what else is still slipped through that ban phase, Jess? It is the MIER. This is something that we don't see very often. NIP loves to ban the MIER, and she can be so strong at locking down that basement floor.
I also honestly think when you're holding on elbow, especially if you do a double setup, which I'm not sure if they're going to do, it does actually look like at least they've opened up elbow for the most part. Some people will place a default shield there with the smoke behind it, then roll back, reinforce that wall off. They're going to place the shield over towards the pillar door instead, over towards boiler, and that's okay, because when you've got a MIER on that elbow wall, you don't really need to double reinforce it, so there's going to be a lot of opportunity to hold blue here. Conversely, look over to MIBR, however, they've got that long-range hard breach to work with. That's going to deal with those MIERs really well. And as Psycho is doing a little bit of the snake over in Small Tower Falls, it's just wasting his time, hoping someone can run at him and take him out and lock him out before he gets away. He'll be able to get away with his life barely. But that's the first 30 seconds of the round here between these two Latin American monsters, who I expect to put on a very good show for us.
Yeah, they certainly should. And of course, to take it back for a second and talk about the context of these teams, NIP were runners-up at Six Invitational last year, 14 months ago. These were the second best team in the world. And, well, it has been a pretty tough road since then. While they were still the best in Latin America for some time, that's just been gradually slipping away from them, Jess, as teams like FaZe and Team Liquid have risen back up once again. And MIBR, of course, well, they used to be called Team 1. And picked up by MIBR, and look, they've had some pretty strong performances. They came first in BR6 last year, but they still haven't really made a splash on the international stage.
Well, during Copper Elite 6, we saw that MIBR narrowly defeated Team Liquid on this map and then went on to lose the next two maps after that. So we know this is a map that MIBR at least can fare quite well on against other really strong Latin American teams. So I don't doubt they know exactly what it is they need to achieve here when they attack the bottom floor, but it's quite a difficult site to push. You and I alluded to how strong that MIER can be. That's why you need to conserve those X-Kairos to deal with their mid and late round. And Psycho, he's going to be the one holding off on the MIER towards the front, and Redux wants to open up this wall here, but there's an aptly placed mute jam, and that's going to stop them from doing that. And a lot of time will be delayed here because they aren't getting a really strong blue push out. They're focusing on the hatch first, which is what you should do, but now there needs to be a bit of pinch push, and they need to hurry it up just ever so slightly.
Yeah, MIBR have made good progress and that they've opened up a lot of different opportunities for them. But at some point, Jess, you've got to commit, right? And it looks like that's what MIBR are doing right now. Lovely nade goes through, but that was actually caught by an ADS, which means that shield is still intact. The EMP is caught as well by the ADS. Oh, this is too close for comfort for MIBR as time slips away. And NIP can hold on. Kamikaze takes a very aggressive position here and finds the first pick of the round. Only 30 seconds left, and that's massive from Kamikaze. And blue is his to control. NIP open up this match with a flawless round.
Well, unfortunate there for MIBR. I said they should know exactly what they needed to do, and their step-by-step looked flawless to begin with. That early round looked like they definitely knew what they wanted to do. But Kamikaze said, I don't care what plan you have. I'm going to be able to walk up and use that short-range shotgun engagement to shut you down. Really good there, and I think that's because they weren't properly, I guess, pressured over towards that particular door. It's an area that we used to call Shiko spot in EUL League because Shiko used to just peek from that door over and over and over again. So I do think not being able to open that wall just because of one singular mute jammer was a bit of a problem for MIBR there. So I hope they have a bit better of critical thinking skills to deal with that. But we're going to go upstairs now. They can't repeat downstairs. And as we go upstairs, we'll have the Malusi, the Banshees to play with the Aruni Surya gates as well. But again, I do expect that MIBR, they'll try and get this pinch push. They'll try and get as much open as they can. And I think, James, and you're welcome to disagree with me here, I actually think top four can be easier to push because you're outside and then you're almost in, you know what I mean? Especially when it comes to the bedroom. Attic can be a little bit more difficult, but it looks like that's why they're going to fortify over towards bedroom.
Yeah, I think the thing with this top floor is you just have a lot more options in terms of attacking, right? You've got so many different avenues you can attack the site, plus the fact that the entire objective is soft, with the exception of that tiny little area of concrete just near the trophy door. Everything else is destructible, so the attackers can go below, mince up the floor, find any anchors. And we've seen meta develop on this bomb site from attacking from the master armory side with a little bit of tower to attacking from the big window and the white stairs, and even some vertical pushes as well where the attackers try and take kitchen. And that's why we're seeing NIP put a little bit of pressure early on downstairs and extending that roam to deny that early map control for MIBR.
A very, very aggressive defensive setup here. Rap says, you know what? I can just negate all of your setup towards the bedroom door by hopping in on one of the highway windows. That's going to be that's quite difficult to push just because of that Surya gate in there. But even if he jumped in, he wouldn't have to run through it or take any damage. And as a result, now there's multiple ADSs that they're going to have to deal with. Surya gate as well. As they look to try and push that, Kamikaze tries to repeat what he did last round by being aggressive with the shotgun, but it doesn't work out this round so far. He'll be alive just for now, and surely the pickup happens as Reduck will take splash damage.
Love this aggressive setup from NIP, but Falls goes for the punish. Hello! And he finds that secure onto the down player, but Julio just on the other side. And okay there, Muzi. I don't think that's what your team's looking for right now. As Julio and Muzi himself try to hold on, a minute 30 left, but things are definitely looking good for the MIBR squad. In a 5 versus 2, but they take it slow.
No need to speed it up now. You've got a minute 20 to work with here. You can go as slow as you like. You can use all of your utility. And speaking of Lucid, he'll be able to catch Julio with a nicely placed grenade. Muzi says, I want kills and I want it now. But instead, he'll receive his death. And that's going to be a nice, quick round. And almost flawless one for MIBR there.
Quite a flip of the switch after that first round being so convincing for NIP, and of course MIBR just secured a very strong round of their own. To me, if I was to highlight the most significant difference between those two rounds, Jess, I don't know about you, but it feels like in that first round, NIP were just sitting and waiting. MIBR hang around for 2.5 minutes and didn't really commit to anything. And then there was nothing really for them to do. NIP still had so many strong positions. And of course, Kamikaze went massive. In that second round, NIP played a lot more aggressively, like the strategy that you mentioned with the open closet wall, the extension into trophy. And what that did was actually allow MIBR a way into the game. As soon as they got that injure, NIP are doing everything they can to try and secure that res. And MIBR is just punish until there's no NIP players left.
Well, it looks like they're going to repeat the top floor and hopefully not repeat the mistakes. I think the first mistake that tumbled into a domino effect there, James, was unfortunately Kamikaze. He was feeling himself, you know. He wanted to keep that momentum going from the last round where he was able to just run at multiple of those MIBR players and take them off the board. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. But for me and for those viewers out there that don't necessarily get to watch the Latin American region very often, unfortunately, it's a really bad time zone for me, so I don't get to catch it all. But when I do, and if you look at how stage 1 went for the Latin American region, MIBR was a whole 4 points ahead of Ninjas in Pyjamas. They sat 3rd on the leaderboard. Ninjas in Pyjamas sat 5th. But a lot of people still think that NIP, because they were 2nd place in Six Invitational last year, are still one of the best Latin American teams around. So, got to give them a little bit of the benefit of doubt rather in today's matchup.
I'm reloading.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say is I'm just glad that NIP aren't getting too aggressive this time. Even though we have peaks like that from Pino on the trophy, MIBR are ready and waiting for NIP to hand MIBR an opportunity on a silver platter, and all it will take is one gunfight like we saw last round, and then things start to spiral. Though the strategy could change completely, NIP heavily bunkering down onto the bomb site, falls to breach the closet wall, waiting to make sure the situation is clear before he does so. No, Bandit ready to juggle, and he calls, all right, Fools, you're all good to go.
There's no walls in R whatsoever. Look at that. I mean, they're EMPing, but they know that there's none, so I'm not saying it's a wasted EMP, but you should be pretty certain that with no one in proximity and no Waldenal in the entire composition of the defenders, you're all good to keep that one in pocket. Keep it for something like the Banshee or the Yokais even, you know what I mean?
I guess some players just want to be better safe than sorry. Okay, that's a shield made of, I don't know, something really strong. What's the material from, I'm going to try and make a pop culture reference and get it wrong, so I'm just going to back out while I still have it. Adamantium, there you go. Thank you, Metis. That's what I was going to say, but like I didn't want to commit if I was just going to embarrass myself, and so I did anyway.
Well, I don't know what that is, so you're a step ahead of me there, James. I don't know what that reference is in regards to. Doesn't really matter because that shield finally goes down. Still one whole Ash charge in the pocket of Raps as well, so if they need to deal with some of those Goyo shields, should they still be up and present, then they can. And now that Thermite has smokes, for those of you who don't know, it means he is extra powerful. It's why a lot of these players are bringing him these days. And Luca's below to make sure that he sort of flanks up behind any of these players. He might even decide to pinch up on wide as well. There's no players on there currently, but look at all of those players stacked to the back of dorms.
And just look at that clock as well, Jess. 30 seconds left. NIP is so confident here that they could perform this retake and deny this plant with the Yokais, but that EMP's doing its job. Falls, getting that diffuser planted with only 20 seconds left. The plant is faked out. The Yokai springs into action. Muzi makes a play, that's massive. And now MLBR gonna have to scramble for something out of nothing with the plant going down once again. Julio and Kamikaze to hold on as MIBR throw bodies. Kamikaze tries to make a play, but that is not gonna work out. MIBR make it work in the dying moments, sending everything they have at NIP.
It almost looked like a wild scramble for both teams at the end there. You saw that that Yana wrapping around through Freezer, late round, rather mid-round, but late into the decision to try and get an execute happening. There were players that had to repel the Dorms window because that's where the predominant amount of the NIP players were, and you need that rotate cut. It seemed a bit scrappy, but for the most part, MIBR knew they had to keep trying to get the plant down, keep baiting those players, and no matter how many defenders you throw at it, well, MIBR, they had the crosses in their own hands, and that's a good round there from MIBR, and it's what is expected of a team that plays top 3 in their regular season, that's for sure. And now they'll go back downstairs and hope that they are able to repeat the kamikaze flourish that happened in the blue, or whether they change their push-up. I don't know about you, and I know you haven't worked with me throughout this particular stage, and I miss you very dearly, James, that's for sure. But I've spoken to Des a lot about the fact that there is a very, very low win percentage for teams that attack over the front and onto Freezer. And teams that do commit to that oftentimes lose. How does it look over in the APAC South region?
I wish I could tell you just straight up, but I'm going to be honest. I don't really remember exactly what tends to be more successful. I feel like it's pretty evenly split.
Okay.
You know, I feel like those blue and tower pushes are pretty good, but they do fall apart sometimes. And I feel like those freezer and lobby-centric pushes do work out as well. It really depends on the situation. When you've got a factor like MIER involved, right? MIER is so powerful. Just putting in the laundry cubby, facing towards laundry, and it's the same story really here for Freezer. As soon as you have factors like those to consider, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of teams just say, okay, let's push blue, because we're kind of scared to push those other avenues where the mirror windows are staring us in the face.
Given a lot of the position that MIBR plays, it does look like they want to do a clear over through kitchen, maybe get that hatch opened up again, and maybe a little bit of freezer pressure as well, but they don't have to commit to it wholeheartedly. Entirely depends whether or not they're going to repeat it. And I will think, and I'm gonna say it now, I do think they're a little scared of pushing blue after what Kamikaze did. It's okay to question yourself when you have a bad encounter like that, and if you think it's too heavily fortified, maybe you want to try something else, but the meeting hatch finally gets opened up, and they've got 2 whole minutes to play with here.
Launching probe.
Pretty staple stuff, though, for MIBR. Like you said, time. 2 minutes. That's great. But the problem is last time MIBR attacks this site, you know, they spent that 2 minutes doing not a lot. They couldn't really decide whether to go for this front push or go for this rear push. And at the moment, it looks like it's similar in that they're setting up for a little bit of everything, but I want to know what they end up committing to. That's really what we need to see, some commitment. Because it takes a lot of time and effort to, say, clear the bricks position where Kamikaze likes to play, to clear out blue where Muzi's playing, or to counter these mirror windows that are facing the front push. So the earlier MIBR commit here, the better chance they're going to have of winning this round.
Well, if they wanted to, they could use Lukid's grenades to try and get that Mew Jammer off the wall, where we see that that smoke playing of Kamikaze. Instead, they're putting a lot of pressure over towards Freezer. There goes one of those grenades I was talking about, and the second surely comes out as a C4 is replied. And that's exactly where the diffuser is. This is dangerous. They've smoked off. That's the last smoke they're going to be able to work with here as they move on up here. And 1 whole minute left. Raps makes his entry. He has no idea he has someone behind him, but with protection, he's got it all going for him. Double kill for Julio. And all of a sudden, they're looking down the barrel of multiple ACOGs. As they move on to site, Muzi will have to be the difference maker here. He'll come in from behind, and with Psycho down, it is literally a 1v3. He can hear the plant going down. He'll be able to deny it. That's huge. And James, as I run out of air here, I beg you, take over for me.
It's a quiet moment now for Muzi as he decides how to play this. Psycho's giving him some info, but shut down. Now it's a 1v1, Jess. Redox has to hold on to make sure this round is not thrown away. Muzi, that is everything. NIP wants it from you. You stepped up, you filled those shoes, and you made MIBR look silly.
Yeah, made him look silly is exactly the right phrase I would use there, because I thought to myself, okay, they've allowed him to sneak up to double doors, deny the plant. That's okay. You didn't know where he was. You made the mistake, but now you know where he is. You can't make that mistake. There was only 2, maximum 3 places he can go. He can duck back around to elbow through the rotate. He can continue to push double doors, or he can do the super long flank through meeting, whether he chooses freezer, front stairs, whatever. You're going to hear him running. Doesn't matter. Above you, the footsteps are quite loud. It doesn't really matter. And surely there's drones. They still made that mistake not to commit to holding that rotate and then planting over towards laundry, let's say. A bit of misdirection there from NIP. And as a result, they will, or rather, they'll be able to get that round on the back of Muzi being able to play that. But that was a misdirection, I think, from MIBR. You just got to be able to commit to being able to hold the cross if you do want to commit to the plan.
Yeah, in a way, I feel like MIBR has looked better this game so far. With the exception of that very first round, MIBR has looked better. But NIP, yeah, okay. Do you want to touch on that? It's a pretty weird shield.
Yeah, we go like, what?
I'm just going to throw everything else out the window. You want to break that down for me?
Medics, I know there's someone in small tower, but can you just quickly zoom over that shield on a southwestern base? Basis over towards tier 1 of big tower, bro. Not small, big, big, big. The big red tower. That's it. Zoom it on over. Go down one. Go down one level. Yes. Zoom on in. Yeah. Okay.
What is that?
I don't really know what I'm looking at, and the reason I want to highlight it is because I think Kamikaze's point of having that shield there is so he can play aggressive on anyone wanting to enter in there, but someone could just run in behind him. I wonder if it serves a secondary purpose as well for that rotate that they've made that oftentimes is closed up. I want to see it work, but I also think it has so many flaws to it.
Yeah, I admit I haven't watched every single BR6 match out there, so I don't know whether this is something that NIP have done before, but it's certainly news to me, and clearly news to you as well, Jess. This is quite aggressive and not something that we would usually see, but it does continue. You know, the trend of NIP are toying with these aggressive strategies. We saw it similar on Dorms. Speaking of aggressive, Raps is in nice and early, but he takes a bit of damage, and it looks like Muzi is not interested in giving up any map control for free.
You don't want to give away attic. It is such a crucial power position, especially once the plant is going down. That attic hatch is just like, oh my god, there's so much power you can have as a defender. I'm not sure if they've closed it on ARP or if they've opened it, but either way, Reduct, he wants access to it no matter the current composition of the hatch. It has been closed up, so Muzi, he can run away for the moment and plan himself in Dorms, but with that Hibana in the hands of MIBR, and in fact, they brought a double hard bridge to work with. It won't be hard for them to open up that hatch, and oh no, there was 3 different ADSs there, not the 2 that Redux shot. That's going to eat up a bit of util there, and they are wasting a heck of a lot of time trying to flush both Psycho and Muzi out.
Oh,
and they'll get a kill for the trouble.
But the trade almost comes through. Lukid so close to confirming Nade might do the trick, but Psycho gets on out and he gets a kill with it. That is unbelievable. And NIP quite literally running rings around MIBR. There's only 50 seconds left. MIBR, once again, they look slow. They look a little lost, but they're going to have to commit to something here. It looks like Kitchen will take their focus. Is this going to be straight away? It looks like it might be an early execute. Reduct drops down, but caught immediately by Julio on the other side, and he is punished. The refrag comes through, another one drops, and oh, this is messy, but it's not going to work. MIBR fall to pieces. That's Pino locking in yet another round for MIBR, or rather NIP.
You and I keep doing it. You know why we keep doing it? It's NIP, MIBR. It's just, you're just trying to get the acronyms out, and of course,
get this, right? N rhymes with M. I and I are literally the same letter, and then P rhymes with B. Yes. Believe it or not, Jess, that's some 10 out of 10 analysis from me. So I mean, the overlap between the pronunciation of these two teams is, look, I'm just going to call them ninjas from now on. No longer are they NIP.
Yep.
They are the ninjas.
Yep. That is going to avoid all of the tongue twisters that we've unfortunately had to go through. Nevertheless, something I really wanted to highlight there was Filippo. He actually had 2 drones. Now, I don't know where they were in the map, but he had 2 drones to work with. They had about 33 seconds to play with when they decided to Hail Mary through that hatch. I'm not saying he should have used, the 12 seconds to get his drones over there and everything, but I don't want to see teams giving up in the dying 30 seconds just because there's a numbers disadvantage. And I'd like to see teams try and use the intel, try and use the drones, their utility, for example, flash pop drop maybe. Those are the things that I think show a team that keeps cool, calm, collected in really bad situations, of which a definitive man disadvantage they were in was. Nevertheless, I don't want to paint a really bad picture here for NIP, but I really do think they need this round, James. Why? They are a heavily defensive team on Oregon. I know there's not a lot of games to go off of here, but if I go off the long games they've had so far over the past few matches of Oregon, they have shown a lot more promise on their defense than they have their attack. So I'd like to see them walk away with a 4-2 half.
Well, it's very much possible. I think that the problem for MIBR, if I was to boil it down into simple, Gold 1 caster terms, it would be...
You are more than Gold 1. Shut up.
Well, I literally am Gold 1 this season. It's been a rough one. MIBR, when they find picks, like when they get a man advantage, all is well. Every single round that they have found the opening pick, they have won. And, well, maybe that bodes well here for Reduct. He's just found the opening and no trade as well. But every time NIP has found the opening pick, they have won the round. MIBR need a man advantage, otherwise the executes are really messy.
There's no mirror to pop here with that particular Twitch drone, but you could disable some of the Banshees if you want, destroy some of those ADSs. A lot you could do with it at current, but it looks like he's going to be scouting rather than destroying. Muzi, we're going to blame that one on the nerf of the recoil, not the inability to hit the drone there. And as we have a man disadvantage only slightly here for Ninjas, the big thing for me is how are they going to deal with this clash? What do they have to work with here? Nothing really. No Zofia in the lineup, so no concussions. They're going to have to actually maybe disable her shield with an EMP run-up and melee her, but at that point, you'd want to hope you have a really big numbers advantage because that doesn't always work. Or you could have Reduct on the gun who's able to take out Muzi. Big pick. He's a difference maker on the bottom floor just rounds ago.
Well, if the pattern continues, MIBR are looking good to tie this half. One thing I will say is I'm loving the depth of strategy from NIP. Every single Dorm's defense, they've had a different strat. Doesn't mean it's actually working, because half of the time, more than half of the time, in fact, it's been pretty grim for the Ninjas, as Pino and Julio will have to be relied upon here. And Julio doesn't even have the SMG. He's got this pistol.
What?
This is not a great position to be in. At least Pino can land 2 nice shots. Hello. And now Rap's going in for a kill, looking to push. And he gets punished as well. How has this happened, Jess? A 5 versus 2 has become a 2 versus 2. Thanks to some gnarly shots from Pino. Him and Julio to hold on. Do MIBR get aggressive here? Do they take their time and work together? Reduct is in, but the player's watching him. Pino with the 4K. Filippo is the last one left. Pino's looking for the ace, the C4, and it does it! That is massive! Pino locks in a 4-2 half for the Ninjas.
Incredible work there from Pino. And what really gave me the cherry on top from that ace, James, was the fact that he knew he was taking multiple 1v1s. He had time to take stock in the situation. He had time to get comms from his teammates, especially the clash. He had time to manipulate the misplay after misplay after misplay of MIBR there. And if you're going to throw 1v1v1v1 at the man, he won't miss. Unbelievable stuff there. They deserve that round. They absolutely do. Because if you are going to be that careless, then you deserve to be punished for it. And that's MIBR walking away with their heads hanging low.
Yeah, that is definitely a really, really rough position to be in if you're MIBR. 5 versus 2 to a 0 versus 2. Honestly, I commended MIBR. I said they've had some really nice rounds, but they have really struggled on their attack with this aggression from NIP. You know, even when they found the early picks right, like you know, that was the break of the curse. You know, that trend. Like I'd said, every round the opening kill had been converted to a round win. And thanks to Pino, that's no longer the case. I'm going to point to the elephant in the room here. The Blitz! Julio, this isn't year 2 anymore. I know we've got all kinds of highlights from back in the day when you were the Blitz main of Latin America,
yes.
The terror of the global circuit. Times have changed, but apparently some things never do.
Is this a rush? Oh, please, for the love of God, let this be a blue rush. Look at them all squared away there. 3 drones will come in. And as Des would say, here comes the train. I'm not going to make the sounds he makes with it because it's an awful rendition of how a train sounds. But it looks like they're sussing out the situation. Pino will rotate over, waiting for the call here, James. Am I good to go or am I not? And every second that ticks by, the train becomes slower and slower. They must commit to it now. They can flash out elbow and take control extra quickly. They don't want to give away the shields present just yet. And as a result, once they get control, surely they'll burst on in.
Because it's taken so much time and NIP have been so thorough, MIBR have clued in They've brought their players back, and they still NIP struggling to clear all this util. Finally, a nade rolls on through. That should clear that. No! The ADS reactivated. Perfect timing. NIP have fallen to pieces, but now Julio goes on forward. Walking on in, Barat rips his head off. And Filippo jumps in. The vectors come to life as Muzi is locked out. He'll burn in the fire. And NIP, this rush has fallen flat on their faces, but Muzi says, I'm not done yet, not here, not now. 3 versus 3 for the Ninjas, but Lucas still has a power position at Bricks and is holding on. The Ninjas looking to recuperate, but what is the move forward?
I love that they used a go-go shield there that actually saved them from Muzi using the momentum to just come flooding in onto site. Kamikaze, what a beautiful drone that spots out multiple of their players and their exact location. Yellow pings will follow. And with a whole 60 seconds to work with, Muzi doesn't miss the C4, but they use it as a distraction. Filippo will be able to use the vector to rip straight through him in response. And a bit of karma there as Lucas seemingly hasn't moved off this shield position whatsoever. With 60 seconds left, you think they would calm down, take stock in the situation. They don't. There's one, but an instant trade back. And something I have to tell you here, James, is I didn't allude to it before, but MIBR in the last 3 games at Oregon have an 84% win rate on their defensive half. It is hard to break through their defense.
And while we do have to commend the effort from NIP to go for that rush, if you can call it that, it was kind of a calculated rush, you know. It was an execute, a mini execute. They did kind of give away the strategy, right, by taking so much time to drone. And I think the real nail in the coffin there for the Ninjas is the fact that when they eventually did go for that execute, the utility wasn't perfectly coordinated. We heard those ADSs, they breathed back to life just at the moment that those nades came through. It was such unfortunate timing because, of course, when you chuck a piece of util and the ADS eats it up, it'll reactivate. And so you really have to make sure that you get everything done within that very narrow window. And if you don't, then we'll see NIP. They certainly reaped what they sowed.
Seems like the Latin American region loves this aggressive hold over towards Trophy and Bedroom, and I like it as well. What I think the biggest weakness is that highway window over towards the northeastern side near Armory. I think that is a big flaw in it, and that a lot of people should be able to bounce through a lot of utility. They're going to put a Prisma there instead. I like that, actually, because if anyone tries to hop in, it's going to ping them almost instantly, and you can't really rappel upside down there and shoot the bottom of it without putting yourself at a lot of risk, and in fact, even then, a lot of use of Alibi. What do you think about it? Because it hasn't been super popular operator around the world, but they're making it work here, and I definitely think it's kind of like the Surya Gate vibe that I'm getting from a lot of teams, and that it is a bit of area denial.
Yeah, I personally love Alibi. I think she's super underrated. I think that the amount of counter-aggression you get out of a couple Prismas, it really shouldn't be understated. If you're trying to play a window position and there's a Prisma staring you in the face and you're worried about getting pinged out, it does make you a little bit cautious.
Oh, God, of course there's going to be an ADS. I know, the drones have been horrible. Oh, I'm sorry, but it hurts my heart seeing how much utility has been eaten up when a Thatcher isn't banned and no drones came out. It just blows my mind how many times I've seen that this match, honestly.
On the flip side of that, I will credit the defense, MIBR, while they kind of did have that Malusi just laying there as a bit of bait and the ADS to protect it, there was also a Pyjamas there. So while NIP did try to drone it, it wasn't really possible. Of course, they could have used an EMP, but I guess they were trying to conserve them. Nonetheless, it has wasted a lot of time here.
Psycho is convinced there's going to be a jump out, and with Filippo rearing nearby, I think he's rearing to go, but there is a Prisma on that window, so it would give a tiny little sound effect if he did run through it. But for the moment, they're just trying to hold underneath to make sure no vertical play happens, and Raps will hold onto the Armory camera to make sure the Reduct can sit here quite safely. C4 rains out. I believe it'll only collect a drone. And as Pino's trying to bounce a grenade into yet another ADS to be able to get any wall denial off this wall, finally the Mute Jammer goes, and well, he gets a bit of a go-go shield as a bit of a consolation prize there.
2 for 1. I'll take that deal. Only thing that wasn't caught there is the ADS, unfortunately, but it might not matter since there's no real util they need to clear any longer. MIBR on their defense, they still have a lot of map control while the Ninjas are making progress. Ooh, missed opportunity for Pino. it's not everything that NIP needed. But, of course, a pick is always nice, and Muzi, with 45 seconds left, does get one.
Located a bomb.
Well, there'll be two people on the double window. Look at where that diffuser is. They desperately want to get a plant off, and with Lucat and a C4 below, they need to be careful they're holding on to that. I think that's Julio's job now, is he'll go towards lobby double doors and hold any C4s that could rain up through classroom. Wonder if he has a drone there. Both of his are destroyed. He misses that opportunity. What a shame. But if Lucat was to come back, he could challenge onto that. And you're right, there's 15 seconds left. A plant needs to occur.
15 seconds to go.
Kamikaze slowly makes his way in to do so, but Philippox on the white stairs will be his enemy. The plant tempted, faked, tempted again, faked, tempted again, and faked and denied. Philippox makes it happen, and Ninjas in Pyjamas. Far too little, far too late, and the round is over with 7 players still alive in the server.
I had no idea the time had dwindled so heavily there, James, because I was just so, I guess, focused on what they were doing, that wall, where they were using their utility.
Honestly?
I think they looked at the clock too and went, boys, we got 15 seconds left.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Well,
Scary
what do you think?
Bit of a scary moment here for NIP. 4-2 half, rounded out with 3 strong defense rounds in a row. That rush really did not help their situation, though. I think just when you try something like that, obviously it's a bit of a gamble, but when it doesn't work, you're kind of like, oh, okay. And it does set you back a little bit. The momentum does flip, and for MIBR, it's like, hey, you know, maybe this isn't so bad after all. And now it's tied the scoreline, 4 apiece. You've already made a bit of a point, Jess, about how MIBR is quite strong on their defense.
Yeah.
And you know, within a round, we may well see them actually taking the lead back away from the Ninjas.
Now, a lot of people like to criticize, you know, oh, you don't have a lot of sample data to go off of. Well, I'm going off of Latin American teams only, and I'm going off of Oregon as a map only. And if I look back to the past 3 matches on Oregon, they took it quite far in the best of 3 they had against Team Liquid. But before that, they had a best of 1 against Team Liquid where they 7-1 them. They won 6 defensive rounds in a row against Team Liquid. That is how strong MIBR is on defense on this map usually. And they 7-4'd INTZ on it as well, losing only 1 defensive round. They are known to be quite strong in the Latin American region on defense on this map, so there's no reason to shy away from that statistic as being an indicator as to maybe why they are looking a little comfortable on this half.
Yeah, even just to bring it back to the first half as well, Jess, MIBR had some strong attacks overall, you know, close but no cigar. But if you remember that round, they were in a 5v2 and then Pino aced. If that hadn't gone that way, which let's agree, it shouldn't have gone that way. Pino should not have been allowed to ace that. Then we'd be looking at a 5-3 scoreline right now with MIBR still quite a few defense rounds to go in the half. I do feel like all things considered, MIBR not only now has the momentum, but I feel like overall they've looked like the better team this game.
Yeah, I'll absolutely join you in agreement on that, and no surprise, of course, but that's a bit of a surprise. Psycho being allowed to cross over multiple lines of sight into sight. MIBR punishing every single player, but Kamikaze, he wants a little bit of good karma on his side, and he will get it. He's down to about 8 HP as a result. And this was a very, very fast push for NIP. Last time they tried a fast push, it came back to bite them. And with a minute and a half now, I often say they need to take stock of the situation, and they don't, and they get punished each and every time.
Oh, but this is big from Muzi. Only gets 1, though. That could have been the in for Ninjas, but unfortunately for them, they do find Julio to clutch in a 1v2. Not impossible by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. Over a minute left. A drone as well to his name to get things going. It is his only drone, and there's 2 others in the field, not in very good positions, however.
Just taking stock at the crossfire that Reduct and Lucat have right now. If Reduct swings, he can hold over onto that particular rotate. Julio wants to bait out the plant. He wants someone to peek, and they do, but Reduct knows it's a bait. And with 30 seconds left, I think his best bet is to either commit to a plan or try and go for the kills, and go for the kills he does. 25 seconds left. He misses out on that angle there, James. What a shame. And he could hear the player running over the rotate. A wallbang would finish that one off, but he doesn't know exactly where he is, and a dance ensues. Surely this is going to be the refrag they need. Reduct is full HP. Julio's out of time here in the shotgun. That's what you needed. Short range is where it shoots and absolutely pops off. But for me, that was too close to home. I'm telling you what, James, that crossfire wasn't appropriately set up in that last little engagement in kitchen, but they make it work.
Seconds remaining.
Yeah, MIBR realistically are quite lucky to have won that round, even though they had a strong mid game. Good trades back and forth. Ninjas did let that slip in the 1v1, but of course they will take a tactical timeout on the back of it. A moment to breathe for NIP, who have just lost 3 rounds in a row and are looking pretty lost on their attack.
Speaking of moment to breathe, that's definitely what I need. God, I tell you what, a rough few days for me is I am barely able to breathe through one nostril at the moment. TMI, I'm sure, for the audience out there. But just so you know why I'm sounding a little bit worse for wear, that's what it is. So don't worry about it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll keep pushing through it. But I tell you what, I have all of this energy from how close this matchup has been. I didn't expect it to be a one-sided affair. I did expect MIBR, once they got on their defensive half, to sort of run away with it a little bit. I am surprised, however, from a couple of these late rounds here from NIP that have seemed rather sloppy, and that MIBR have kind of fed into it a little bit. It's a bit of a shame, but nevertheless, a close scoreline is a good scoreline.
Certainly for us, and certainly for you guys at home, always fun when we get a close game. I think that we expected that from these teams. I think we expected NIP to bring some fire. Look, they've had some pretty good games so far. But of course, the last time these guys played was actually in that final of the Copa Elite 6, or rather the... wait a second, that was... My stats are wrong. That's a first. Unlucky, Dev.
That is a first. You've never been wrong statistically either.
I'm just never wrong at all. I don't think I've been wrong a single time in my life, so it's going to take me a moment to digest.
Wow.
But of course, these guys are pretty closely matched, right? We've seen them play each other very frequently. It was the semi-final. There you go. Normality was restored. And MIBR did win. 2 strong maps. NIP found 1 was Clubhouse. They didn't play Oregon in that BO3 though, so it's not like we have a 1-to-1 comparison to make. I think that most people would predict MIBR. Ooh.
Oh.
That is unusual. That is not a pre-placed gas I've seen before. In fact, pre-placed gas babes, where do you see those? Never.
Almost ever. And the reason that it's so odd is that once you place that there, you can't place another and use another in any other position. So if no one pushes blue, he either has to shoot it or pop it and waste it. And that is only opportunity for him to be able to use the rest of his smoke babe. So if they start a bit of a rush down the other side or front stairs, that's when he's going to have to waste a whole smoke babe. And they can come in very big clutch during the end of the round. So we'll have to hope that some of NIP decide to push down there. Surely they will. And I keep saying this over and over. When you've got a Thatcher in hand, it's just such an easy opportunity for you to open some of those walls downstairs in that bunker. So that's a big opportunity for them. And something that we haven't really touched on here is how good of a game Reduct is having. Doesn't matter what operator you put him on, he's been able to hit his shots, and that means that he's had a pretty good KD as a result.
Yeah, and on top of that, he's just been misdrone, Jess. So I don't know whether we will see Julio perhaps take an unnecessary risk. Keep your eye on him later. But for now, Muzi's starting to tease with the freezer stairs as the Yana Gemini goes on through. Gives some good information. Muzi clears the Banshee. Julio still not exposing himself to Reduct, fortunately. And Reduct at the moment isn't really accomplishing much. Psycho still completely unaware of the Roma just around that corner. You can tell by the way NIP are behaving. They don't know about this position. My question is, will they ever actually run past and expose themselves? How much of an impact will Reduct have? Is there a double EMP here? Because if not, oh, there is perfect timing. And here is the, oh no, Reduct. You better get out of there while you still can, mate.
He seemed a little bit none the wiser to the fact that there was a hole on stage wall there, which was interesting because he was looking at it for a solid 15 seconds before that and then getting peppered through it with the Type 89. He should have known. Pino had the Goron in hand, but Julio has the head of Felipox in his. And now it looks like they want to get this blue control we spoke about before. That pre-play smoke babe goes off and Psycho gets on in, but he gets punished as a result. We speak about this almost every single round. NIP, they run wildly into sight and they seemingly get punished. Muzi wants to make a name for himself, but it'll be 5 feet under the ground. And it's all up to Pino now. Full shotgun in hand. He can walk through the smoke, but he thinks more of the wiser of it. And with 15 seconds left, you don't really need to throw another 1v5 or rather 1v3 to Pino. He's done it before, but Lucas says not again.
Strong round from MIBR at the end of it. NIP had a nice setup, but like you're saying, there wasn't a lot of bite when it came to that final push. And not a lot to grab onto for the Ninjas. As we head to match point 4 rounds in a row for MIBR, things are looking pretty scary now for the 2020 runners-up of the Six Invitational. They may just lose yet another game here in the group stage.
It's interesting as well because I was looking through some of the matches and I don't have my Cobra Elite stats up, which has been a little bit more recent if we're talking about the recent games that have occurred, considering how I'm looking at stage 1. And the reason I like to look at the regular season when I go through my stats rather than subsidiary tournaments, although you've likened the Cobra Elite 6 as being sort of the playoffs, the Brazilian region, or the Latin American region, which I do agree to that whole. But I was looking over some of the statistics and I mean, Kamikaze, he had an okay season or okay stage 1 start to the season. And then I was looking at how he was performing throughout this particular Six Invitational groups, and I was quite impressed. But unfortunately, it seems very inconsistent. Like, he'll have rounds where he'll just absolutely shine, and I can see on sheets he's got a multi-kill here and there, and then he seems to just go quiet and go dark for several rounds in a row. And I'm wondering whether or not that is something that NIP feels they're lacking. Is it consistency? Is that why they're letting a few rounds slip and relying on hero players from like Pino, like Kamikaze? And you and I have spoken about this before, James. You can't rely on hero players because they're few and far between.
Yeah, the thing with hero players is they need to be the cherry on top. They can't be the whole.
Yeah,
you know,
you're right. That is a good analogy. That's brilliant.
You can't serve a whole, feast with just the decorative elements on the top. You know, you got to have some substance there, and that is the case here, of course, with Rainbow Six teams as well.
Well, this could be the very last round between these two Latin American teams here. And as we're getting into one of the smaller days of competition, every second day has been quite small just for how the groups have been now. We have 18 teams at the Six Invitational this year, and many of them are Latin American teams. So not a surprise to see them going head-to-head in their group here. It'll be up to MIBR to show us that 83% defensive win rate that they have over the past 3 games on Oregon, that it means something, and that is against Latin American teams alone and against good ones as well. That's nothing to shy away from. All they have to do is hold strong here on the top floor.
Yeah, but the Ninjas have made good progress, actually. They've breached the closet wall, started clearing some util elsewhere. Psycho just around the corner from Reduct. And Lucid as well. MIBR playing very much a vertical. The risk here is if NIP can start to storm the site. If they go deep instead of trying to plant in a position where they might get C4, this could be big for NIP.
Not a lot of places that's not breachable, and Muzi, he'll eat a face full of that smoke, babe. Pino gets caught out by Filippo, who's below, but that's a nice trade from Muzi. Now tries to get yet another trade there, but misses out ever so slightly. And this seems to be just a running theme here on these attacking rounds. So much happens in the midway of the round, and then they have about 60 seconds to play with here, and then they don't seem to slow down. It's almost like they can't take their foot off the pedal here. They're going to have to try and get a plant down as Muzi gets an opening for them to do so. Psycho goes in and the default plan, he needs to back on up. It's Luca below, and you said this, James. If they're below, they can't deny.
Raps, though, can do some good work, but taken down, all on falls. A 1v2 is very winnable. How low is Kamikaze? Low enough to fall just into the smoke, yes! And now it's a 1 versus 1 for the map. Falls to clutch against Julio, but Julio holds down the line. And NIP hold on for just a bit longer.
All of the NIP fans right now sitting on the edge of their seats going, please, overtime, please, you can do this. And well, they're trying to show now that they can against a slightly higher ranked team, of which MIBR is. I can't stress this enough as well, James. 1 year ago, actually just over 1 year because of the delay of this year's Six Invitational, but just over a year ago at the last Six Invitational, NIP surprised the world with what they did on stage against SSG. Even before that, they were starting to surprise, to catch all of our eyes and our attention. Now they've come into this year, and not a lot of people are necessarily hyping them the way I think they should be. This was the second place, the second best team in the world last year. And I think that absolutely deserves to put some respect on their name, even though maybe now they might not be performing at the same sort of level that they were last year.
Yeah, and one tidbit to add on top of that is a lot of the top teams in the world have made roster changes in the last year. You know, even TSM happy with a third place team at last SI. But you look at NIP, Psycho, Julio, Pino, Kamikaze, Muzi. These are the same 5 players that played in that Six Invitational Grand Final 14 months ago. We know what they're capable of. There are no question marks in regards to the individual performance of each of these players on that team. The only thing is sometimes does beg the question of at what point does a team need to shake things up if they're starting to gradually fall down the standings. Now, if we look at NIP, over the last year, it has really been a gradual decline from them. They were first in the August Major, second in BR6 overall, third in the November Major, and then tied third, fourth in the 2020 finals for BR6. And this year, fifth in BR6. Like, that's just a gradual decline, worse and worse. These guys need something to grab a hold onto and springboard off of to get back into being their normal selves.
Well, whether normality is now or whether it's that performance last year, August and before, it'll be up to NIP now to win this round to get themselves into overtime. This strategy being employed by MIBR here allows them to have a line of sight directly over into bedroom, but guess what? That's a denied run up there. Filippo thought he'd be able to catch someone off guard, and there's 3 whole players rappelling outside, so he might have been able to get the triple for the trouble of running out, but that was a really good situation there for Julio to be able to just look over and go, yeah, I know this is going to occur. I have a redundancy plan. And was that a deep ball camp pinging out Psycho? I hope he catches that one out. He does get rid of it. And now they have a little bit, a measly amount of control over towards the southeast. Oh, what a catch of that head.
Tiny flick. And the wallbang as well now. The Ninjas has started to punish this aggression in 5 versus 3, but we have seen bigger clutches from the defense on this bomb site. Though it was NIP themselves defending at the time, MIBR are going to have to show what they're made of here to pull something back.
Some randomized pinch pressure going on here, and yet again, is that another run out denied? I believe it was. Pino took quite a bit of damage for it, but it doesn't seem like MIBR are deterred at all. They want to put this aggression right up into the faces of NIP, and every time they've done it, they've seemingly been, given that negative karma, that bad karma for it. And I'm talking about so much aggression here, James, and now it's finally working.
Exactly what MIBR needed. Finally, things start to stick, but Pino says goodbye. Reduct in a 1 versus 3. The Ninjas looking like they might just push overtime. Has a C4, has 14 kills to his name this game, and has a little bit of info too. This could be a big run out, but he would be detected if he commits. There's 20 seconds remain. Julio has absolutely no clue. That's a big kill here for Redux. And the pings as well. And NIP just want to send it to OT, but they might just do so. We are going to need overtime to settle this bet between the Ninjas and MIBR.
I didn't think Ninjas would do it just with how well MIBR started that defensive half, and I thought to myself, yes, their strategic staying true. They're showing us the power of them on Oregon, usually against Latin American teams. But this is a Six Invitational. It's not the regular league. It's not, the Copa Elite. You're now at the World Championships, and Reduct having a massive game here on the kills. Muzi and Pino as well. We've got to remember, Pino managed to get that ace, I believe. That ace clutch, was it not, with the clash by his side? That was a brilliant bit of showing. So there has been some real big hero players from both sides of the board here. But when you get into overtime, you have to work as a team. There's no second chances unless you feel that the first round of the overtime is the second chance. I argue that is the last position you want to be in. So MIBR will start on their defense, and I think that's really the best opportunity for them to, as you said before, springboard themselves into a winning position.
Yeah, while this has been a defender-sided map so far, keep in mind that NIP won the last 2 rounds of their attack. They've been attacking for 6 rounds in a row now, and they look pretty shocking at the start, but they built that momentum, and it's the same situation here, Jess, right? Like, they're going straight back into the attack. The only thing going against them here is it is launching. Now, they never successfully attacked this bomb site.
Yep. Mind you, a little bit of a skewed statistic when we had that little bit of a blitz push on in. And who knows how that will look now. They're not going to repeat that one here. So as a whole, I definitely think they are looking to be a little bit more calculated, a little bit more careful. Something that I think has been NIP's kryptonite is not using their intel correctly. That's where I think things have gone downhill for them. As a result, I'd like to see them slow things down. I mean, they get to the minute mark, and it's almost like they aren't reading the time or the timer correctly. I think they're at 10 seconds when they actually have a full 60 seconds to work with here. So hopefully they use the time to their whole advantage.
We've seen time really have a big impact, haven't we, so far? So I'm definitely going to keep my eager eye on that clock. NIP, finding a roamer upstairs, but that roamer hasn't escaped. And Philippox can get all the way back downstairs, and NIP have their time wasted and nothing to show for it.
Pino has had a very, very good game, so if he's able to clear out anyone that does decide to go back on upstairs, he could do really well. I'm still a little bit confused as to where they want to make this push happen. They're opening up a lot of the side, left, right, and center, and sometimes they like to late push over to blue, and that just seems to be NIP's sort of signature way of pushing this at the moment. Does look like Freezer is going to be the heavy reliance here. They've rotated at least 4 players over there, as well as the Defuser, drones as well. They're going up against the MIER. And now, there we go. Those X-Kairos will surely blow that open. Do they have a bit of an impact to deal with that?
I think that was Redux impact. I thought I heard the Gon 6 as well, but a bit uncertain of exactly what went down just then. Muzi holding an angle, and this MIER window needs to be dealt with. Psycho has X-Kairos pellets, but he's nowhere near the freezer. NIP rotate once again, looking a little lost, looking a little desperate. And this looks like it might be MIBR to hold down this bomb site once again. With 45 seconds, Raps doesn't go for the peak as of yet, biding his time. Kamikaze preparing this smoke for the execute, for the ninjas. They're going to need to keep up their momentum they developed in the second half and keep forcing overtime to their own match point. NIP have rotated. Here's a blue push. MIBR have no idea, but it might not matter. They've reinforced off the bunker position. NIP have to get desperate. Muzi inside the smoke. And he will get deleted by Falls. There's only 15 seconds to go. Kamikaze taken down. Redux finds another kill. And NIP, desperate as can be, they start to flood into the bomb site piece by piece. Psycho finds one. MIBR just 2 players left. Psycho wants to plant. Julio has to cover right here, right now. And holding on. Philippox does deny. MIBR once again have the match points.
There's only so many angles you can cover in essentially a 1v2 when your partner is planting. That is the trouble in a 2v2 situation. It becomes an undeniable 1v2 the moment your teammate starts planting. Do you watch Freezer? Do you watch the rotate? I can't do it all. And And that was no fault of their own there. They were out of time. I did say I'd like to see them use the time wisely. What they decided to do was just flood sight from all directions. The trouble is they didn't have the intel to do so. This is where that lack of droning from NIP, from ninjas, has been troubling them, attacking round after attacking round. It will continue to trouble them throughout Six Invitational if they continue to try and push wildly into places and rely solely on their gun skill. They've done well this game. I will not fault them for using their mechanical skill wisely, but unfortunately, they could be way more powerful. They could be that second place invitational team if they paired that really good mechanical skill with just a bit of intel.
The only thing that's missing is the setup for those executes, right? Like, and the time when those executes come about. 18 seconds were on the clock when finally ninjas started to push their way into the bomb site. And you know, earlier this game we saw a 14-second execute from these guys. They do tend to be quite slow. But of course, the tables have turned now. We flip all the way back. If you remember the first half of this game, we saw the Ninjas defense. It was pretty strong, but there were some good attacks from MIB. Only victorious, though, on that Dorm's bomb site. So once again, NIP down in the laundry. And Jess, I've got a sneaky suspicion that we're going to see the full overtime, unless if MIBR can prove me wrong.
Well, they were pretty impressive on their defense, but the scoreline wouldn't be this way if they didn't both have impressive rounds here. So yet to tell exactly how they're going to push on in this one. Very swift entry from Lukid. Hot drone in front of him, and he's going to follow that up to find out exactly where his is. Gemini will follow, and I think he just wants to confirm there's no players going to be harassing him from the freezer door. Pino's there with a shotgun in hand, and if he keeps his distance, he'll be safe. But I don't think they're worried about freezer right now, James. They want this middle floor control. They want to start opening up these hatches, doing exactly what NIP do, but then it will be up to them to decide where can we get the plant off. Trouble that NIP had on their attack is that they didn't appropriately get rid of those players and rather those mirror windows. And I'm wondering whether or not they're not conserving enough of their ex-Kairos. Reduct has been a massive, massive part of MIBR's pushes, but does he have what it takes to keep as many ex-Kairos in pocket to deal with those mirror windows mid to late round?
Yeah, having 16 kills and a 2.0 KD is one thing, but these executes will fall or be successful depending on the setup. And we talk about these ex-Kairos, looks like that's the intention here, to breach this wall-facing bricks. NIP are ready for it though, ready to shoot them off. What is the play from MIBR to counter? Maybe a smoke from the thermite? We just see some pressure as time ticks away.
Back when Ace had those smokes, they used to smoke off the wall and then Selma it. This time it's going to be the thermite that has the smokes, and they're surely going to be able to open up some. This puts Kamikaze in a very precarious position. Left, right, and a drone on his backside there. That is a much better use of utility. That will make sure that that position, for now, is negated. And Reduct, he has a really good line of sight to make sure the smoke doesn't sort of rotate back. And if they flash out this pillar's position, they could take it, but Kamikaze's still such a problem. We saw him do this last time, and he gets a triple.
That is so big for NIP. And with the defuser, Kamikaze can just chill out on the stairs. Lukid, this is so difficult for him. Julio doesn't give him that chance. The Ninjas in Pyjamas have taken us all the way to round 15 to settle this.
Every single time Kamikaze has played that position and he's been put under immense amount of pressure, that is when he thrives. Shotgun in hand, he will run at the enemies and he will make them pay for putting pressure onto him. Players that thrive under pressure like that and know how to think cool, calm, and collected about what they need to do rather than just sitting there and taking, death as part of their fate are really, really impressive. Kamikaze has been the difference maker on that bottom floor multiple times for Ninjas. He might be on the bottom of the leaderboard, but he's at the top of the leaderboard with impact kills.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Plays win games sometimes. Every little bit helps, whether it's a great strategy that was prepared before the game by the support staff team, whether it was a smart decision from the IGL or another player, or whether it's just someone saying, hey, I'm going to make a play. We are losing this, and we're about to lose the game unless I make a play. Kamikaze said that, and now because of that, we're on match point. And what's more, Dorms is where we settle this. And NIP have already won it twice on their attack, whereas MIBR only won a single defense here. This is where it ends.
Whew, I'm trying to calm myself into it. It's the calm before the storm here, and we keep telling the viewers out there, it doesn't matter how many rounds you win. You either get that 1 point for winning, or you get 0 points for losing. No matter how much of an effort or rounds you put on the board, you don't walk away with a participation prize like you might do in those regular leagues. And I think that's going to be playing on all of these players' minds here. Big thing to point out here. We've got a clash on the side of MIBR. They just want to slow down NIP as best they can. And I think that that's a worthy strategy. Even though I have seen NIP make some rash decisions in the mid-round, I don't think necessarily they'll be trying to rush into a clash here.
So, I honestly don't know how this is going to go. I think MIBR could definitely win this. I think NIP could definitely win this. As Luka starts to pull back from his roam a bit closer to the objective, and Muzi's on the prowl for something. No drone ahead of him though, so a big risk to enter the map without preempted info. Pino's been a big player for this game, but really you take away the 5 kills from the ace, and he hasn't really been a standout on the scoreboard, not like we would usually expect from him.
A crouch walking Ash is everyone's worst nightmare, especially if you don't hear them coming. He'll drone himself out and see if there's anyone nearby that he can take advantage of. He's looking for the C4 players. He'll find one. There he is. And now that he's stuck in this corner, he knows that he's going to be cut off, and that's a great little bounce grenade to get rid of the wall denial there for Kamikaze to get that closet wall opened up. He'll blow up to Muzi here. Does he try and take the Vector on short range? That would be a dangerous decision. You'd have to hit all of your shots. He doesn't have the R4C either, so for him now, it's about waiting. It's the waiting game. And on the site, there's MIBR trying to re-fortify their positions as are they going to open up that attic wall as well? Yes, they are. They have the ace in hand. This is going to be a double-fold push here, and finally they open that up. Is that what's happening behind that smoke there? Did they not disable it? Did that EMP not do its job? Oh, there you go.
Reduct all the way through. That denied it. That is huge. Thermite charge, though, will come through. A big risk from the Ninjas. Reduct, 16 kills. The top frag of this game. Raps, aggressive on the bridge. Not droned out. He could have a big impact here with only 35 seconds left. And the Ninjas in Pyjamas prepare for the final execute of this match. Muzi downstairs hasn't had a big impact as of yet. The execute about to come through. NIP just waiting. They find the lead-off kill. That's Pino. And Muzi pushes up the stairs, finds a clash, might be able to take him down. He goes straight into the bomb side, and NIP goes straight for the victory. But MIBR are holding on. All these NIP players are bunched up. Lukin might well have a save. Oh! What is that? Muzi has no chance. MIBR have done it in round 15. Out of nowhere, the Ninjas go down.
That is what can happen when you have a clash in your hands, time on your hands, and every single yellow ping under the sun. Why did Lucan sit underneath on that hatch for so very long? Because that one C4, you spoke about it before, James, it's a difference maker, and that's exactly what they got there. What a very close matchup. We couldn't have asked for anything more than that. And I am sitting here just, I've got my microphone right up in my face. I've just dropped it a little bit so I don't seem like I'm eating the microphone there. But I am impressed, and I'm also a little bit disappointed because that comeback from NIP, you want them to do well. You know, if you're going to come back after a little bit of a thrashing on your second half, you kind of want them to take it. But MIBR, they showed why they're a top 3 LATAM team.
Yeah, and well, they may be even more than that here at the Six Invitational. It's about global competition. Who is the best team in the world at the moment? MIBR might be in for a shot at that now that they've taken down last year's runners-up. Well, we'll see what the analyst desk has to say about that in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
What does it take to create a secure community? Join us on the second episode of I Call Next as we discover how to protect what's most important and enable worry-free play.
Welcome back to the desk in what can be described after, or the aftermath of, what can only be described as LATAM lunacy. That was a real throwdown from start to finish, Ace. 15 rounds. I'm sure that Dev has lost his voice somewhere along the way, but what you said came true. Your prediction was right. It was a close one, but ultimately MIBR walk away the winner.
Yeah, it was a bit of an epic battle between the two, wasn't it? And I think ultimately the map was the key for me. As I said, we've seen NIP struggle on attack of Oregon repeatedly, and ultimately that was right down to the final round. The difference, it came down to those last 10 seconds. It was a late execute in round 15. They were unable to get the diffuser. You shouted it out, Des. There looked to be so much confusion in those last 10 or 15 seconds from NIP. The clash hadn't been dealt with. They just didn't really know what to do at that point, and it's because they're so short on seconds and they know that it's now or never, that it just really piles the pressure on, and ultimately MIBR are able to take advantage of that.
I think what really pained me throughout was the number of rounds where you could see it was relying on Pino, sometimes Julio to step up. Muzi at points as well had incredible rounds. And it's always the chaos, and I always say this, I hate when teams rely on one individual member in a round to do all the work for them. Whereas the thing across the regular time, there were 3 rounds that were won without a multi-kill. It was scrappy, it was chaotic, but I think like you've touched on there a second ago, for NIP, the attacks, they look a little bit slow, they leave it all until the dying seconds, and that makes all of us nervous because you know that one single mistake, one forgotten about angle, one area left undroned, as we saw in round 15, can cost you everything.
Well, that's it. I think it was Luke downstairs, wasn't it? He had the nitro in hand. As soon as that diffuser starts going down, he's got the clash feeding him information as to exactly where they are positioning the plant, and it's an easy 2k for him to shut it down. And at that point, you know, NIP have lost their heads effectively, and MIBR come away the victors. But, you know, we can't take anything away from MIBR either. They've had a great game there. They've played into that. They've known what to expect from NIP. They've read the game well, and they've put the odds in their favour to get the great result to start the day for them.
And the one player we didn't talk about in the pre-game, Redux, going absolutely massive. It's worth mentioning as well. Some really critical rounds coming out for him. Just goes to show the calibre of players, of course, that we have got here at SI. So many, I don't want to say so much surprises, but no one really saw Joystick's return. Here you got players like Redux playing things like a Mute, stepping up and going big. You love to see it.
You certainly do, and the thing is, with a team like MIBR, it's very difficult. You come in and, you know, let's look at NIP as a contrast. Who do you talk about on the way in? You talk about Muzi and Pino, especially with the way that SI is going. But you look at MIBR's lineup, I picked 3 of them, Des. I picked 60% of the team, and it was still one of the remaining 2 that went off. You just never know what you're going to get or where it's going to come from MIBR. They've got talent stacked up across the board. Redux there going 16 and 9, as you can see, and then the rest of the team just sort of tailing along with 9s, 10s, and a 6 for Raps. But a good performance all around from MIBR. I'm sure Bodega's going to be very happy with the performance from his team there. That is all the moving parts coming together at the same time there.
And for NIP, given they came into today 2-0, MIBR 1-1, had that, you know, really rough performance coming up against TSM on Clubhouse. I'm sure with how things shape up off the back of this, it's going to make it really spicy to see who can climb ahead of the other in this group. For NIP, obviously a little bit of work to do, more again tightening up at the attack times. I don't want to say they've got a good chance to practice that, but their next game is going to be against Parabellum here on Stream A. Parabellum, as we know, having the rough of it so far. For NIP, maybe a good breather, one you think they need in the middle of all of this chaos?
I think so. You know, know, you're coming in with a real start to the day there against MIBR. Whichever way, even if NIP had won it, it had still been very draining for them. You know, we're not sort of saying necessarily that Parabellum are a walk in the park. We don't know what we're going to get from them is the reality, but they haven't shown it. They haven't shown us too much so far, and you know, expecting them to come in and shut down players like Pino and Musa, it's a big ask. So yes, you would expect NIP to be able to just maybe, you know, take a bit of an overview at that point and just get rolling again.
Fingers crossed at the very least. Let's take a look at the standings and see how things shape up after the conclusion of our first game of the day. 4 more still to come. MIBR sitting pretty at the top. Yes, they are tied in this case with NIP, but because they have the head-to-head, they come out in front. Makers and TSM still holding up the top 4, and then Space Station, Oxygen and Giants would proceed into the lower bracket if things carry on as they are. And Parabellum, who are playing next like we mentioned, they've got a bit of work to do, Tim.
They've got an awful lot of work to do. I think, you know, I said it to you this morning, Des, coming in, Parabellum, this is their day now. For me, if they don't pick up a win today, I'm not saying it's necessarily said and done. We'll have to see how the standings are at that point. You know, there may still be an opportunity. It depends how Giants do and everything else. So it's not necessarily the case of if they don't win one, then they are out. But you sort of get that feeling. The games on the last day on Sunday are not favourable. I think they've got TSM on Sunday. It's not going to be favourable for them to come in and pick up a win to save themselves, is it?
The easiest game they've got, air quotes easiest, is against Giants as the final game today. I was just checking it out just a second ago. That, for me, if Giants carry on with the rough performance that they've had so far, that game later on today could be the pivotal factor in whether or not, well, when we decide which team carries on into